Hey, good evening, everybody, or wherever you are in the world. I hope you're on an absolutely fantastic day. I'm here with Misha, and I've been watching her work. She's a fantastic speaker, mind-blowing story, ranging from MK Ultra to alien abduction. And Misha, huge thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me, Shaun. Really delight to be here.
And Misha's link is at the top of the description box, the website. So please support her important work. So could you just assume that the viewers haven't seen your story before and just give an introduction to them? We'll start with that.
An introduction to who I am.
Yes.
Well, I'm an experiencer of about 8 or 9 different types of ETs. Some from just ET experiences, abductions, and others from my lab, military laboratory abduction. Also, I'm Secret Space Program, MK Ultra, and I was born into an MK Ultra family, and I, was doing it all alone and trying to find my own answers, and I knew how hard it was. So because of that, back in 1990, I started support groups for people who are experiencers of all the types of things I talked about. And I also now do them for the last 12 years. I do them on Zoom, and I do all different categories, all different topics and such. I'm also a certified hypnotherapist. I specialize in trauma release hypnosis therapy and working with experiencers, parallel past lives, all of these kinds of things. And as a psychic, a remote viewer, a channeler, I do readings as well with my cards and my other things I use, my chart and such.
Fantastic. All right, let's go back to the beginning then,
Okay.
and we'll try and get your story in the order that things happen.
Okay.
So, where did you grow up, and what was it like for you as a child?
Okay. Well, I had kind of a parallel life, shall we say. I had the part of my life where I was an experience with ETs. My first contact was at 3 years old. They, the whole story is in the book, so I'm just they'll touch on some things about it. But they were little BGs, the bears is what I called them. And what they were little fuzzy guys. I saw them. I finally listened to the sounds that were coming from them through the night. And then one morning I heard their little squeaky noise again. And so I went and I followed it. And there they were underneath the staircase. And there was 3 of them that had brown hoods on. But their heads were uncovered and they had little brown eyes. And they were little fuzzy bears, and they became my invisible friends, actually. And during when I watched Star Wars and I saw Ewoks, oh my gosh, that's them. They look just like mine. So that was my first contact, and then I had what I'd call the 3 little grays that would come to my window that looked like baby deers to me. And so I let them in, of course. I mean, I said, oh, it's time to go. The baby deers are here. I also had a tall white being that was without hair. I called him the willowy one because when he walked, he was very like a willow tree. He just moved and floated. He didn't look like he had any bones even. And so I had experiences like that with them. That was the beginning one between 3 and 4, but also between 3 and 4. Just to give you a little background, my father was a Rosicrucian, and he was a Rosicrucian because his mother and his stepfather were Rosicrucians. And they were particularly involved in a sect of the Rosicrucian. I'm not saying all of them are that way, but that were black magic and the alchemy. And so, in fact, there was a picture, one of the only pictures of my father when he was very young, when he was about 5 or so. He was in long ringlets and wearing a dress. So we know from my dad and how upset, disturbed he was throughout our life, that he'd gone through trauma. In fact, he even talked about being beaten with whips and things like that. So I know that he's a mind control victim himself, and that he carried it on. And so he started with me, and I do believe it's because his alter did it, not him, but he trauma-based mind control and torture. And that started about 3 years old. And he actually said to me, you have to learn how to leave. You have to learn how to leave. And I didn't quite understand that. And then it became clear to me, you had to learn how to leave your body for the pain. He says, because much more pain you'll have in your life than what I can give you. So he was training me, I guess, the only way he knew how to do it. And so I had that dichotomy going on throughout my life.
So I'm just going to read what Rosicrucianism is, because just because I had to recap on this. It's been a while since I heard the word. So Rosicrucianism is a spiritual and cultural movement that emerged in early 17th century Europe, characterized by the belief in esoteric wisdom and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. It is symbolized by the rose cross and is associated with concepts like mystical and alchemical traditions. Rosicrucianism is not a single unified organization, but rather a tradition with various groups and orders, including the Rosicrucian Order, AMORC, and the Rosicrucian Fellowship. Does that sound accurate to you?
It does. Like I said, not all of them are that way, but with everything, even in different religions, they unfortunately will turn some groups will turn dark. And this was that case. In fact, my father was kind of studying under Aleister Crowley, and so he was the alchemy and such as that. There was another one, I can't try to think of his name, another one he studied under, because he came home one night to my mother, and he there was a cup on the table, and he moved it without hands. He moved it with his mind, and it really shocked my mother. And he says, there is so much you can do with your mind, and so many things and so many places you can be. He says, but it comes with a great price. And his family was his great price, actually. So throughout the family, there are some strange things. I was from a family I was number 9 of 10. And out of the first 5 children, excuse me, not first 5, out of the 10 children that were born, 4 of those, the first one had a disease, but the rest of the other 4 died before the age of 2. So it was kind of like, yeah, there's Crowley. It was kind of odd. And so on my father's deathbed, he said to me before he died that, I'm sorry what I did to you. He said, but your mother couldn't handle losing another child. He said that at least you were able to grow up with us. So I got a really strong feeling that a lot of, at least some of my siblings, may have been taken into the programs or killed some way, because my mother only has had she's gone now, but my mother only had 2 of the birth certificates and announcements. So it was all very, very odd and strange.
So viewers, if you've just tuned in, I'm here with Misha Johnston, and so far we've been covering the early years. I mean, that must have been so cool, 3 or 4 years old, having those experiences. You know, with the yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been. I mean, I've got a 2-year-old here, and he's just in a world of his own. He's trying to make friends in the park, and to have that at such a young age. But then you've got this dark side of your family. You said that your father was a student of Aleister Crowley's. Is that correct?
He was. He studied Aleister Crowley. He studied Dale Carnegie. He studied a lot of different people that talked about doing the mind and speaking words. He's words and controlling your mind and things like that. On the other side, my mother's side was Masonic, and I had a 33rd degree Master Mason on that side, which I ended up as a young gal, probably about 11 or so. I was put into the Job's Daughters, which, if you want to look up that one, there's good and bad in that one too. But in the Job's Daughters that I remember, strange things happened.
How are we spelling that?
Job's, Jobs, Daughters.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you know how your mom and dad met?
Okay, yeah. They met in San Francisco. Do I remember exactly how they met? Not really. I do know that at the time when my mother met him, it was a time of the speakeasies kind of and the bootlegging and stuff, and he had a small job in some place doing bootlegging. He was he did like filling the jugs and things like that. So it was
like you see in Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
All right. So Job's Daughters then. There is a biblical definition, but there's also a Masonic definition. Job's Daughters International is a Masonic affiliated organization for girls and young women, focusing on leadership development and community service. Founded in 1920 by Ethel Weed Mick, and membership is open to girls related to Master Masons or sponsored by a majority member of Job's Daughters and a Master Mason. Emphasis on leadership development, community service, moral values. Members participate in rituals, ceremonies, and activities, often with Masonic symbolism. The organization welcomes members from diverse religious and cultural backgrounds. Majority members, those who reach age 20 or marry, can become adult volunteers. So, wow, I'm learning so much from you already. I'd never heard of this. We'll have to get perhaps an ex Job's daughter on to interview. But, you're weaving many things together here. And when we've interviewed other people who've been through MK Ultra and looked at their family histories, there's usually intelligence agency history, Masonic history, and you are corroborating what other people have said. So were your parents, were they related to intelligence as well?
No, I don't think so.
But they were at the high end of the esoteric and the Masonic.
Yes, he was. He was. He also was a magician, and he performed illusions and a hypnotist as well. And he went on the road with two of my siblings. Actually, ended up being three of my siblings. While I was very young, I was still 4-ish, 5-ish at that. But it was so bad on the road with him that both my oldest siblings ran away from home, one at 14 and one at 16, just to get away from doing the magic shows. And it was a great Dr. Rigor and the London Ghost Show. But anyway, it was a traveling show that traveled around and such. And I knew that. Well, we all knew my dad could read minds. We all knew that he would just look at us, and he'd also look at his ring, his Rosicrucian ring, and he could tell us if we were lying or things like that. He'd say it was coming from the ring, but there were strange things. His brother, in fact, also was mind controlled and became a cult leader. You can look this one up too. A cult leader at his name was Krishnaventa, and he was at. I'm gonna have to get the name of the area he was in. It was in San Fernando, I think. I'm just looking in my.
Yeah, take your time. While you're taking your time, I am going to put Misha's website link in the live chat. It's also in the description box if you're watching on replay. So please support Misha's important work. And if you're putting questions in the chat, I will get them to Misha when she's finished telling a story.
Yeah, this is my Mormon ancestral book here. So I found out a lot of things after that. But anyway, Krishnaventa, he was at I think it's the San Fernando Valley, and he was with a cult called, and that was in San Fernando Valley. But I'm having drawn a blank on the name of his organization. But I will tell you that he had long hair. This cult would have people give away all their belongings to him and their money and join. And I do believe, I know in my heart, it was a CIA program to see if people would give away everything to follow a cult leader. Also, he thought he or proclaimed he was Jesus Christ in reincarnation. And it went on from trying to remember the year it went on from. All of a sudden I'm having blanks here, but it went on for 10 years. And he was called the Barefoot Prophet. Oh, there we found it. Sorry about that.
No, take your time. You're doing great. You're doing great.
When you get older, the memory is the first thing to go. But yes, so he was it's just fading away here. Well, anyway, he was the leader of it, and he was there for 10 years. They called him the Barefoot Prophet. There's different names that he went by, and I'm trying to remember the name of the outfit, but I can't for the life of me find it here. So he was Pence's Fountain of the World. Don't know why I couldn't remember that. Okay, I was looking in my book. Okay, Fountain of the World is what the organization is called. So anyway, if you want to look that up. But, Charles Manson, of course, I know you've heard of Charles Manson. He patterned himself after my uncle because he got such a huge following, and people were so involved for so long. That's Charlie Manson would follow the way my uncle did his things. Other than my uncle there were no deaths or anything like that, but he was a polygamist, I would definitely call him.
So, Misha, you've got this eclectic, esoteric family history.
Mm-hmm.
You described the extraterrestrial encounters, and then I imagine it's going to get dark. Is it, if you're getting into MK Ultra? Because MK Ultra, as far as I'm aware, is about creating trauma in kids. Did they do such experiments on you?
Yes. So as I said, my grandmother was a Rosicrucian. Well, when I was about 4 years old, I was taken to visit Grandma often. While the kids would be all through school all week long, my mother was working, and so Grandma would be babysitting me. But Grandma took me to the asylum, and at this asylum in the basement is where they were my trauma-based mind control torturing children and training children. And so at age 4, I was in the basement of the Blackfoot Asylum for, I'm not sure how long. I just know by 9 years old, I did end up going to school, but by 9 years old, I was put into what they call service, which I know would be everything from pedophilia to with children to other courier kind of things and such as that. So within that, they teach you, or I should say, they teach you, but they desensitization. We were locked into rooms, locked into boxes, like they're like coffins with like snakes and spiders and things like that. Different types of torture, electric shock, all different types of drugs used on the kids. And so that was kind of my weekly thing. But then while they're splitting an altar, and this is what this is all about, is splitting the altar, because my father was dissociated as well. So his happened. I don't know exactly how his happened. I've never got to hear that story, but he was also a dissociative identity disorder for sure. And he would have manic depressive kind of things and such. So I do believe he maybe at the same asylum. Who knows? I'm not sure. But I was there, and I was there for at least 5 years that I can figure out, from 4 to 9 years old. And they also did this kind of a brain mapping thing where they were studying your brain, because understand when your altar is split, it splits and you have compartmentalized things in your brain. So your brain is compartmentalized with all these different altars. I have 82 of them, but you have basic altars that are like, say, you have 7 to 8, depending on the person, altars. And within those altars, what I call floating altars as well. And the floating altars are they teach you, like, for instance, you've got an altar, Darlene, one of my altars. Darlene had some other abilities that she had to learn, which was how to fight, how to hand-to-hand combat with a knife, how to be a shall we say a alpha slave, which is programming the slaves for photographic memory, maybe how to unlock a door, different kinds of smaller things. And they go into that whole base group of altars, which in my case was 8. And they are programmed that way. So once they split the child, and that has to happen, before the age of, say, 8, that would be the max. I think that I have heard of people having it by 11, but that's because they already had some altars and they put more altars in. So the program altars would be the alpha programming, which is the photographic memory, beta programming, which is the sexual programming. The altars are instructed and taught on how for seduction and sexual pleasures. So I sometimes start that very, very early with children, and as the sex kittens. Also, as part of ended up being part of presidential models, because of the other things that happened to me along the way, and I'll can share those a bit later. The Delta program is an assassination program. Altars are trained in combat and assassination. Psychic killer program, psychic assassins, telepathically being able to do it through remote viewing. Gamma deception. It was kind of a program where the main altars, there's usually like 1 or 2 main altars, can deceive every other altar, and they don't know each other. And of course, me, at that time I was called Miesha. Miesha has no idea there's any of the other altars. And then, of course, the Mago program, which is the program that they put in, which is the suicide program, so that you will
Unalive yourself.
Unalive yourself. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Misha, I've got the police have put a restriction on my channel.
sorry.
So it's all right because of the nature of what you've been describing. I've just got to make sure that you give us permission to publish your story and you waive your anonymity.
I do. Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So obviously this is really dark stuff, and
Yeah.
you know we salute your bravery revisiting these memories to inspire other people and other survivors, and to show them that there is hope. So we really appreciate that. You know, you come across today as just a really confident speaker, but I imagine you've gone through some serious dark times because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that this went on from, was it age 4 till about 9? Did you say the MK Ultra programming?
The first part of it. That's the first part of it. The next part deals with the older from. So okay, so I guess I'd go to the next part of that. Was I was a graduate from high school, and then I went on January. Actually, about January 3rd, I went to the college open house kind of thing they had. And at the college open house, I was in the with some friends in the cafeteria, and a man walked up to us and said, "Who would like to make $460?" And that was a lot in 1968. That was a lot of money. So, and he says, all you have to do is be in a dream study, and we just watch you dream. And so I thought that's pretty simple. So I went next day to a brownstone building just off the campus. And I went in, and there were doctors in doctor lab coats and such as that. They hooked me up, put me on a bed, hooked me up. And that was the last thing I remembered till 7.5 months later. I wake up, I'm in a bus. I'm looking at this bus ticket, and it has a different name on it. First name is Marsha, but the last name is another name. And who is it? Marsha Rose. This is not my bus ticket. And then, now this is what's called the driving program, is what they put me into. Dr. Cameron in Canada started this, and then basically turned it on over to the CIA. His was in the 50s, early, and I think early 60s and such, but then it was turned over to the CIA. And it is a driving program where they put you to sleep for days, weeks, months at a time. Oh, yes, Alice in Wonderland programming. Actually, absolutely. Days and weeks and months at a time. And through that time, they do more programming, more mind control, and all of that. So while I'm looking at this ticket, then I'm going home. And on the way home, I'm trying to understand where I've been. And I get these little flashes of memories, again, about the name. And it said, you had a husband, and he wants a divorce because he wants to go to medical school. And I went, okay. Don't remember him. All right. As I get, and then I think, well, what was I doing there? And then I get this image that I was in a bus with some boys about 12 to 15, and young women my own age, so it's 18, 19, and we are in a bus going through these iron gates. And then this other memory comes in that says, you were just cleaning houses. Okay. But I look ahead now, and there I am in the bus with this big mansion, and it's nighttime. You don't clean houses at nighttime, and it's nighttime, and there's cars, and it's a big party. And we're taken around the back, and we are the party favors. And the movie Eyes Wide Shut gives you a really good idea of the types of things that went on in that big party. As being party favors, we would be dressed in gowns, and part of our programming along the way is these kinds of things. But So we'd go and we'd be the party favors for the men and the other guests. And the guests were people like politicians, dignitaries, Hollywood stars. Remember a couple of names, and I'm going to say them because it's Jack Benny and Bob Hope were there. And many other politicians and such, Kissinger. I'm just saying as I remember it. So if they don't like it, they can contact me. But they were at that party. So that was in a kind of an example of some many things that happened throughout that whole time. So anyway, so now on the bus, I get home, I call my family, and they come and pick me up. And my mother says, for the love of God, we haven't seen you since the wedding. And I said, wedding? And they proceeded to tell me that I contacted them on January 17th and said, put an announcement in the paper. I'm getting married to a Navy Marine corpsman, and he is a war hero from Vietnam. And I'll let you know when the wedding. And they said, when did you meet him? Since I've been here, and of course it wasn't me. This was Darlene, I do believe, and or one of my other altars, and she was telling them that that she doesn't care what they think, and she was going to do what she wanted to do. And then in February, they get an announcement on like February 3rd, and they have to hurry up and find a way to get their businesses covered so they could run. I think it's about 2 hours away to another town where I was getting married. Anyway, so I did. I was married, and my father said, I will not walk you down the aisle. And my mother said, please don't get married. And I went ahead and I said, I don't care. I'll let my friends walk me down the aisle, and I'm getting married. And it was in a church. The next, we had a reception, which of course I don't remember any of it. I didn't remember anything at all until I was in a hypnosis session, probably about 20 years ago. And my therapist was saying, why don't you remember your wedding? This is a very important time. Why did you remember it? And Darlene opened up her eyes, came over me and opened her eyes, looked up at her and said, because it's not her wedding, it's mine. And she's asleep like she's supposed to be. And I also have a memory, of course, of looking in a mirror, seeing myself in a wedding dress and screaming like I'm back here, screaming at myself to, no, don't do this.
Wow. And what happens next?
Well, okay. So I try to get on with my life, and my family business, what you open up in another state in Utah, and I go to take care of that store, and I get a call in 1969, late 1969. I get a call. Yeah, okay. Trying to remember. I get a call in 1969, early, and could be even 1970, but right around that time, I get a call, and I am hearing the sound that I would kind of be like a fax machine, but it's not a fax machine. It's some kind of a trigger that they triggered me once again, and this time they trigger me, and the voice says, "Go to Bob's Big Boy," and I did. And when I went to Bob's Big Boy, I drove there, so evidently the person who met me drove the car, or maybe my alter drove the car. I don't really remember, but I do remember the next thing I remember is sitting in front of MIT so that's New York, and then I'm taken downstairs of the basement of this MIT building, and there are these dentist chairs lined up with other women in them, and I'm put in there, and we are now something like a remote viewing, but more like time travel, where we're last thing I can remember is these tunnels that we're going through, these kind of portals and tunnels. It's basically like a tunnel of energy. And then once on the other side, my mission there is to be able to, without a body, to go out all the way around and see things and see what companies are flourishing, what big industries are flourishing, what politicians are doing well, I went into the future, of course, and even sports games and things like that. And so I'm to get all this information, and I'm sure the other girls are doing the same thing. I would imagine, I don't know, but and I'm come back and I give all of this information so that the rich can get richer, so they can buy the right stocks, they can buy into the right companies and all of that. So the next memory I have is 8 months later, and I am in San Francisco. My brother, I open the door. I wake up because I see my brother, and I snap out of my altar, and he said, we've had detectives out looking for you. Where have you been for 8 months? You've been missing. So through that time was a lot of the beta slaving, more of the beta slave programming and all of that, and more of the parties, more of Bohemian Grove, Bohemian Club. Don't know if you know who that is. But
sorry, let's slow down there. So we've done a bit on Bohemian Grove. We had one guy who'd infiltrated it on the channel. Okay. But then you said Bohemian Club. Is that something separate?
Yes, it is. Yes, and in fact, actually, I didn't really remember that it existed, where it was, but I speak at conferences, and about 5 years ago, I was at a conference in San Francisco, and one of the gals drove me around, and I said I'd just kind of like to get an idea if I can remember some of the places, to kick my memory in gear a little bit more. And so I had her turn this way, turn that way, turn this way, go this way, go this street, turn this street. And we stopped right at that. And I said, look up. And it was Bohemian Club. So something in my subconscious knew how to get there. I also know I live somewhere in that area of Haight-Ashbury, I believe. Well, that was the area that my brother found me in, shall I say.
So at the Grove, they worship the owl. What do they do at the club?
The club is more parties and us being party favors and that kind of stuff. Okay. A lot of shall we say, being with the right person and talking to other people and getting information. So we were getting information because we were, of course, couriers. We'd give information for different things. There was one particular time when I ended up waking up on a plane. I really didn't know how I got on the plane. And then at the end of the ride of the plane, a black limo picked me up. I was taken to a cobblestone area with cobblestones on the cobblestone street. So I know it's somewhere in Europe, but I haven't figured out where. And I knock on the door, and as somebody had written that Wizard of Oz kind of thing, well, there was a term I said, and I don't really want to say it because it could activate other people, but it had to do with the Wizard of Oz. But something to the effect of a bright, shiny day. And he said something back to me, and that activated it. And I walked in, and as a courier, I gave him information, and the information I gave him, incidentally, what actually activates it even more is brutality. So then they have to do some horrific brutality, sexual thing. And he did, of course. And that activated the other altar, who then was the courier. You had one altar became the courier. Then you had to have another altar take the punishment and abuse. And then another altar came in to give the information. And so the other altar said they wanted to take over. It was definitely the alphabet agency, shall we say, wanted to take over a particular country, and they needed to have a coup, and they wanted to put their man in place, and that's what they did. And that was my message to him.
Yeah,
so
which ties into the Epstein story, because our governments have been setting people up all over the world for regime changes, political overthrows, using the most diabolical schemes involving kids, honey traps, blackmail. And the reason they won't release the files is because I believe, what was it, Pam Bonnie said it would be catastrophic for society. Understand that our governments are all at this. And what you're saying just ties in to exactly what we've been learning through all of our interviews we've done on the Epstein case.
I will have to listen to those. Oh my, yes. Yeah, I was before the Epstein. I don't think I have anything at all to do with that. There's nothing in my memories about that. But of course, it just shows that he's just one of them. He's the one that got caught. There's so many more. The madam that controlled us was, and I don't want to say a name or anything like that, but she seemed like a very high society woman who was our madam. And we had this big house on the hill in San Francisco that we were taught how to be have the perfect etiquette for eating and being at parties, and just blending in perfectly. In fact, if you've ever seen the show Dolls, oh my gosh, now I can't remember the name of it, but it goes in great details. It's not Valley of the Dolls, it's some other dolls. I wish I could remember it now. I should have wrote that down. But it was a very good example of how they would program, and then we'd go off for, I don't know, days or weeks or whatever, and have our mark and do whatever we need to do. So there was a lot of spying and all of that kind of stuff as well.
So in your story now then, how old are you as you're telling it?
At this time, I would be like 21, 21, right? That
all age. Right. So what happens going further into your 20s then?
Okay. So that is, behind me. My family comes and picks me up, and oddly enough, though, I think it has something to do with it too, but it may not. My sister's husband, now remember, my sister was the one that ran away from home. Well, she didn't get too far because she was also in the programs. I know she was also a beta slave. I'm positive of that. Her husband was killed at his nightclub, and so that's why my brother, instead of taking me home, he took me there to help my sister. So anyway, but when I finally got home, I tried to get on with my life. I met somebody, got married, and had children, but I wasn't getting on with my life because I don't remember anything about the wedding much at all. I don't remember the marriage, I should say. I don't remember my children's births. I don't remember their first words, their talking, any of that mothers are always supposed to remember. And because I was being taken throughout that time, all the time. This time they were taking me, and I should preface it that part of my programming was for also, I do believe, the secret space program, because my first memory of going to secret space program, going out in space, was at 11 years old. And 11 years old, I wake up and I'm in this hammock kind of thing with this, it's kind of like a metal kind of material, but it's soft enough. It's different than anything that I had ever felt. Anyway, I was laying on it, and that's when I woke up to it. And we were trained on different types of ETs, looking at ETs, looking at types of who was the enemy, who was not. We were trained to fight it, but it's all in holographic. It's all holographic. It's all hollow rooms. It's all different kinds of scenarios that they were training us on. And then this one that I know is not a scenario. I know it's real. We were outside and we were dressed in uniforms, and now we're all like, this is probably we're 12 and 13, 14 maybe, and we're walking and up to this large mountain, and all of a sudden these insectoids / mantids come out and attack us. And then the soldiers that are behind us, hiding, I should say, they come and attack them and take them out. Well, in a regression, I found out, and I actually, when you're in hypnosis, it's very easy to talk to aliens, because everything's, when you're out there in the theta state, in that it is all going on simultaneously. So it actually seems to be happening at the time. So you can talk to them. So I was talking to this alien, and this alien, just a long conversation, so I'll just cut it short. He was saying that, I feel bad that we had to attack you, but we had to protect our family. Our family lives in the mountain. Our friends live in the mountain. And that's my job, is to protect them. I was injured by him and ended up in the juvie tank, or the rejuvenation tank. So that was just kind of the scenario of that. And then as I got older, so see, now and I know it's crazy, and it's crazy to me too, and now I'm like in my later 20s. Now I am working with super soldiers, children, I should say, that are being trained to be super soldiers. And I don't actually per se, like teach them how to do fighting or anything like that. I send them to different teachers that do that, different trainers do that, but I'm responsible for them. And I'm also responsible for them to learn how to become a team instead of fighting alone. And the Germans are very happy about that, actually, because they were the ones in charge, and they were very happy that I saved them money, because the super soldiers would go out, but then they'd come back in and they could work them again and again and again. Whereas before, they were dying. More of them were dying. So they liked what we were doing as a team. All of us were doing for the super soldiers. So then throughout that time, now I should have said before that, or I think it was before that. I think that had to have been my best job up there, unfortunately. But I was also in what you'd call bardos up there, and, entertaining and doing crazy things, really sick things.
All right, folks. You raised so many different points. With the super soldiers, then, there's a documentary called Madness in the Fast Lane, about these two European women who run out into the motorway, the freeway, get run over, and just jump up and fight the cops and go on the rampage. And the people believe they were out of the super soldier program. And also, you mentioned what we believe is the dollhouse.
That's it. The dollhouse.
Yeah, I've looked this up. I've looked this up while you've been speaking. So the gist of the Dollhouse TV series is: a top secret organization erases the identities of young people, attractive young people, turning them into blank dolls ready for imprints of temporary identities. So does that resonate with your experience?
100%. Except they left out the altars parts. But yes, basically exactly the same thing. I was amazed when I saw it. I'm not only amazed, I cried almost all the way through it.
So Misha, where were you at when you turned 30?
I'm sorry?
When you were age 30 years old, what was your life like?
Oh, at 30. At 30, I was oh boy. My life has been such a thing. I'm not sure. I had my kids right around that age. So yeah, about I was in Idaho, you know, but that doesn't tell you too much. I was married. And so yeah, through that time in 19 like 82, my lab started. That's the military laboratory abduction. So that was a whole nother program that they put me into. And that one was interfacing with aliens. And they did that because I had my invisible friends. I had all my little ET. I also had interaction with reptilians, both negative and positive. So my first encounter with a reptilian was at age 16. So I'm going to take you back, okay, to 60 just briefly. I was in, I went to bed. I woke up. I'm out in a field. There's a big ship around me. I know there's something behind me. I can feel the energy. And then the next memory I have, I'm inside. I'm on a table, and there's little gray guys are doing gynecological examinations on me, and it freaked me out because I was only 16. And the tall, white, willowy one I told you about leaned over, looked in my eyes, and said, "Do not be afraid. This is necessary for the hybrid program." So basically, and they also give images when they talk as well. So then in the distance, and by the way, I do believe, and I heard this and it made an absolute sense, that when we go into UFOs, sometimes we do not go into UFOs, we go into dimensions, because I was in this huge ship that was much bigger than the one that was above me. And I could see in the distance 3 people in hoods. And I actually have a better reptilian picture of it, but that's okay. I recognized one of them. I felt the energy, the frequency. I remembered them. And I said, "I know you." And one step forward, dropped his cloak, and he was a reptilian. If I could share a screen, I could show it, but that's right. He was a reptilian. And that really freaked me out because I don't like snakes and any of that stuff. And I passed out. But I come to find out that he ended up coming to me later in 89, and he became my protector. And he became my protector that stopped the MyLab abductions. But before he did, there was a lot of things going on. I had to, of course, you cannot, it's all about non-interference, the universal law of non-interference. So even our galactics, our protectors, our watchers will not interrupt your life unless you ask. And so I didn't ask until 1989. And then I find he's closer to him, closer to that, to Ayano. So in 89, he showed himself to me first as this beautiful energy. And then later, days, weeks later, he showed me himself as a male, blonde hair. And then I said to him, "I don't believe that you're this, and I don't believe you're the energy. Please show me who you really are." So he did show me that he was, there in front of me. Like he was like 7 feet tall. His belt was almost, just a little bit about where I was looking at. And he was, green. Not that color. He was green, like an avocado green, and a light inside color and outside. So it has like kind of mixture of green, like a lizard does. His nose was much shorter than most lizards, but it was similar to that. And he had claws, four claws on his feet and his hands. And the reason then I found out that he was actually my protector was a little time after that, the reptilians come to pick me up. So when I was being taken into the military underground bases, the deep underground military bases, it would be sometimes grays and sometimes reptilians and sometimes uniforms. Well, this one particular time was, and the reptilians seemed to be, that seemed to be the most of it. And they were also, doing things in my bed and everything. It was horrific. So this one particular time, 3 of them show up, and I think, oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm paralyzed, can't do anything about it. And then he shows up, and then there is some kind of a communication. It is a lot of growling, a lot of hissing from both sides, and then they disappear. And from then on, I know that he is my protector. And I even found out that later on during a ritual, because I was in a lot of different ritual ceremonies taken to them in San Francisco and in San Francisco, all of California and LA, and then also in Nevada. And he showed up once at a ritual, and of course this was after I met him. And he showed up once at a ritual because that was a human ritual, and and it was I don't know what I can say. Okay, so there were humans that were being the sacrifice. Okay, so but there were reptilians around, and I could see after during a sacrifice that the reptilian that was standing at the end of the stone slab would almost like, I could see in my mind's eye, maybe psychically, that he was taking in energy. So I do believe that's part of that adrenical, that loose energy that they take. So that's what that was. Well, I was in line with the same white dress that I think that was going to be part of that sacrifice. And Ayano shows up and pretends to be one of them, comes in a robe and takes me by the arm and leads me off and leads me down these underground caverns. And then next thing I know, he clicks something and we're on board a ship. So he was my protector. And he told me what his name was Ayano. I could call him that, I should say. That's not his name. His name is much longer and weird.
Misha, do you think that meeting someone and having kids, how did that affect what was going on in your life? Was it the beginning of you getting away from it?
Not really, because see, unfortunately, the man that they had was a handler, my husband was a handler. And maybe he didn't know he was a handler because he was sick. He was an alcoholic. And so he was probably used. He was an abuser, of course, too. Extreme abuser. So I never really got out of it. I was just more handy, I think. So yeah, I never per se got out of anything until 2000 and year 2000.
All right, well, let's go back to your 30s then. What happened in the rest of your 30s?
Well, I had 2 children, and then really, okay, well, I'll go into some of my life experiences. That's really mainly what I remember. The MK Ultra definitely came into play a little later again, but this was the My Lab, which is also really, and My Lab, MK Ultra, really, they're the same thing. They're using you in different ways. So, okay, so I was an interfacer. So I woke up one time, walking down a hallway. On this side was polished, kind of black, dark, not black, but gray wall that was like not a wall, like a mountain. And this side had the same thing, but it had cubicles from time to time. So the cubicles I know are some of the places where I was interrogated. And so at this particular time, as I was walking down, there were people in military uniforms and lab coats passing, and they looked at me, but they didn't look at what was next to me. And I knew there was a reptilian next to me because I know reptilians. I've had experience with them. I can know their smell. And so I asked him telepathically, why do they not look at you? They look at me. And he said, he sent me back telepathically as well as imagery that they know this is our level. They must honor us. And they're not allowed to look in our eyes. And so he shows me this imagery of this soldier, one soldier being arrested because he looked in his direction, because that was a no-no. And another one who was going like screaming like he was crazy had looked in his eyes, because they're very, very hypnotic eyes and mind control kind of thing. Another experience, I was in a room with a reptilian standing at the door. And I'm going to say these were different than the ones that were in the rituals. The ones that in the rituals were a darker color. They were bigger. This one was more svelte, shall we say. He kind of looked like he might be a soldier, though. And I said to him telepathically, why are you invading our planet? What did we do to you? And he said telepathically, you are the invaders. We are not the invaders. We were here long before you. Then he shows me this imagery of these dinosaurs and prehistorics, and they're all running from all these comets that are coming down from everywhere. And he tells me those comets are coming from, that are being directed to them by the enemy. And this is an Earth extinction event. And we who were more intelligent went into the inner Earth and have evolved to who you see before you. So, and then there's just one more I want to share. There's some other ones, but it was always interrogations. I would be having interrogations. This one particular time, I was being interrogated and it was always lieutenant colonel or above. Always lieutenant colonel and above. And he was screaming at me and cussing at me and saying they knew about Ayano. Of course, they didn't say Ayano's name. They just said, we know about the reptoids. We know you've talked to him. We know you're in this ship. Tell us. And they kept trying to get me to talk about it. And I wouldn't. And whether it was because, see, by then, they didn't have the altars. I've been working since 1980 on integrating my altars. So my altars had already been integrated by 89, 90, 91. And so this all was happening through, well, up into about 94 or 5. So anyway, they gave me this liquid to force this liquid down me, which was very yellow and very thick. And then they brought in an alien, a reptilian, a reptoid, I should say. And he looked into my eyes and kind of did a mind melt. He continued with this interrogation while this connection was going on. And I could like see, as he asked me the question, I could see the answers come up, and it was like as if they were sucked right out of my brain. It was the strangest feeling. So that I knew they might have got the information. And I did find out that they did actually come after, but because they're of their own implant that they put in my ocular years before, they knew that the shadow government came after them, and so they got away. And then the last experience involves my kid. So throughout this whole experience, I'm having ET contact. My kids are having ET contact. We're still seeing our willowy one. But then now and then we have different grays. So I know they're the underground, dumb gray, deep underground military grays. I wake up and I'm in an elevator and we're going down, down, down. And in front of me is a man in a uniform and a black fatigues. He's got a gun and he's like just staring into nothing. Like he doesn't blink or anything. When the elevator stops, it's like he clicks on now. So I do believe there's a whole lot of mind control and alters going on with all the workers too. So he clicks on, he starts pulling us out. Evidently somebody from the back is pushing us forward, and he split us into two groups. The group I was split into were people in uniforms and lab coats. The other group was going to these tall beige grays. They were not gray. They were beige gray. They were very tall, probably at least over 6 feet tall. And in that group, I could see out of the corner of what was my 14-year-old son. So I knew, wow, now it's happened to my sons. And, I did a lot of regression work on that and did find out a few more times where they had taken one of my sons. Didn't take the other one, but they did take the one son.
So, Misha, you said the MK Ultra stuff happens again. What in later life? What experiences did you go through that time?
Well, the My Lab I consider part of the MK Ultra, but the MK Ultra really, I mean, it's like, I don't know if they really took me back to secret space program, and that's why when I was older, I don't know. I'm trying to understand it, because in 2000, I was in the middle. I had my support groups because I started to support my groups in Nevada in 1990, and so I had support groups for men, women, and children. I had support groups for teens because my kids were abducted, and I had My Lab experiencer groups. I had reptilian experiencer groups. I had women's groups, hybrid groups. So, and I had the first children's group that is in the world. From what I understand from Mary Rodwell, she said mine was the first of parents and children who are experiencers. So through this time, some people came to the group that were from California, and I was unaware that they were part of a handler group, shall we say, and they definitely handled me. And it's another long story, which I have in my book, but I end up going to California, leaving this group and with somebody else to handle. And I'm supposed to go there and start this huge organization to reach many, 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 many people. But that's not what they got me there for. Instead, they got me there to try to get me institutionalized. But it didn't work, because the psychiatrist that they had invited to this support group that they were setting me up on, she talked to me and realized that there was nothing, that I wasn't crazy or anything like that. So that didn't happen. So throughout that time, Melinda Leslie, I don't know if you've ever had her on the show, but she and I were working on a book, and it was to be a book called Covert Abduction, Military Harassment and Surveillance, and the Interrogation and Mind Control of not only the abduction, but the government part in it. And so we were writing this book. We had talked to special forces people, all kinds of people from experiences themselves, ex-military, and we were compiling this book together. We were on Art Bell show, and during Art Bell show, I started speaking about reptilians, and I got knocked off the air. And so I had to get another phone and get back on the air. And by then I wasn't able to.
What year was that, Misha, when you were on Art Bell?
I was in 2000. I was like November of 2000, I believe, December of 2000, something like that, just before Art Bell quit. He had George Siegel doing a lot of the fill-ins. That's who interviewed us, was George. Anyway, later on that, not that night, but the next night, Melinda was at my house, and we were working on a conference that we speak at. We were tag team conference speakers. And so we were working on a conference and on the book, and went to bed. She slept on my couch. I went, and the next day we woke up and my coffee table was cracked. And I asked her, what happened to my coffee table? And she said, I don't know what happened. And I said, well, I don't either. And she had to go back to her home to Laguna. And this was, of course, was in San Diego. And I started feeling really weird. Something was not right. You get this feeling that you know when you've been abducted. And so I went to my hypnotherapist, and had a session and found out that men in black uniforms, or at least they looked black because it was dark, and helmets with night vision goggles, had come and broke into my house. And I actually have the proof of where and how they broke into the front door. They wanted me to know that. I know that. And they had broke in, take me downstairs to a waiting van. And I found out later that she did a hypnosis session and found out the same thing, basically, that they had grabbed her. And when they grabbed her and pulled her across the coffee table, they cracked my coffee table. And in the bus, did I say bus? I meant in a van. In the van, we were taken to an underground base in San Diego, maybe Pendleton, I'm not sure, and taken deep underground. I had another encounter with only this one was a Draco. This one had pointed edges. He had what would have been atrophied wings, I would say, on his back. He had a long tail, and I was being interrogated by the colonel, and he was screaming at me, "You've been told over and over," which I had. It was such a long story. 3 automobile accidents later, many threats to my life and things like that. I was also even had identity theft done to me. So they had warned me to shut up, and he said, "You've been told over and over to shut up, to stop this. And now you went on this show. This is going to end. There will be no more of this. To prove the point to you, how serious I am, I want you to meet somebody." And he struts out, and in walks this Draconian. And Draconian looks into my eyes and puts this imagery in my head where I'm in this holographic room and my family is being killed in front of me. So, like my family, my kids, my grandkid, and all of that. So, I really felt that they were serious. And so after that, I decided to go home and tell the kids I was quitting. On the way home, I was ran off the road by an unmarked van to try, I don't know, take me out, scare me. I don't know. I think it was to take me out, really. And I'm sure it was, because the truck driver said they looked like they did it on purpose, because they said there was this van that comes pulling up in between the trucks up ahead of us. And it stopped. It zoomed by, went in and stopped, and it stayed there and drove in the trucker lane. And he said, when you came by, they came out as if it was on purpose. And I knew it was, of course. So I went home, told the kids I'm quitting, because that was it. So I did. I thought I had quit. I thought it was all over. So for 9 years, I got out of everything, but I didn't get out of everything. That's when they re-upped me for, shall we say, for more of the MK Ultra stuff.
So how long did this last section of MK Ultra stuff last for in your life?
From when I went 2000 to I came back here in 2011. No, excuse me, not 11. That's when Mom passed. I came back here in 2009, and I started my group back in 2011. So 9-10 years almost. Yeah, almost 10 years. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Had the methods that they used in MK Ultra evolved?
Yeah, because the memories were blanked out, not much of anything. I only really knew that anything had happened, and I really don't know to what degree. I don't think at my age I was going to be used as a, because that would have made me, in my 40s, right, late 40s and stuff. So they use me for different things, but I really haven't looked into that yet. It's just way too much to go into. I do know that I do not have altars. My altars are integrated. I do not split back and forth like I used to. I do not do any of that. So how they use me, I'm not 100% sure. I just know that people contacted me on Facebook and said they knew me, and I didn't know them at all. They said that they'd seen me here and there, but I was also told by Randy Kramer that I have clones. So they could have had me asleep and using my clones. I'm not 100% sure. That's why I really don't talk about that part of my life too much. Because
how did you finally get away from all of this, Misha?
Just before I left California, I asked my galactics for help, just like I had asked them for help when they sent me Ayano. I asked them, and I ended up in front of a. Well, I was to the point that I was either going to go off a cliff or whatever, because I did not want my family to be harmed. And so I was sitting there in the car, and the next thing I know, I am in a room with like 9 or so ETs. Most of them human, a couple of tall whites, even a reptilian, and some energy beings, and then some more like smaller humans. So I'm asking them, please let me come home. I'm done with this place. I can't do this anymore. Let me come home. And because I wanted their permission, basically, and to know that my kids were going to be okay if I left. And so, or if I took myself out, shall we say. And they said, we cannot stop your mission. This is your mission. You asked for this mission. You must complete this mission. But what we can do is cut the cords, cancel the contracts. So that's what they did. They helped me cancel all my contracts. And since then that did it. That did it.
Well, congratulations to you for getting to that point, because many people wouldn't have survived. And we've got loads of viewer questions have come in for you. So do you have time to answer some questions?
Absolutely. I love questions.
All right. So you were getting asked, are there good and bad aliens?
100% there's good and bad aliens.
Which ones would you classify as good and which as bad?
Oh, well, see, and that's an unfortunate thing, because just because they're beautiful doesn't mean they're good. Okay. Just because they're, this Nordic looking, goddess looking, it doesn't mean they're good. There's been some negative ones of those too. So, and just because they're gray doesn't mean they're bad, because there's the Zeta Reticuli, who I believe were the ones that had been doing the contact with me. And yes, I was in a hybrid program, which I didn't have time to go into here, but yes, I was in the hybrid program, and was shown, like, I had 17 hybrid children, and presented with several individual ones. So they, to me, were positive. I didn't feel that they were negative. I didn't feel the Willy one or the Bee Gees, but the draconians and some of the reptiles, not all of them. So I believe that I saw 3 different reptilian types in the underground bases. One that was definitely what I consider a reptoid, maybe a throwback from a raptor kind of thing. Another one that was a reptilian that was a little bit more on the flatter face, more humanoid, more hybrid. And then, of course, the Draco. So I do believe that the Dracos would probably be, and the Archonics, the Archon energies, interdimensional, those are negative. Yeah, you just cannot tell. Just like there's some bad humans and some good humans,
So a viewer wants you to explain what you mean by you had a handler. What does a handler mean?
Okay, throughout my life, I've had every single relationship was a handler. Well, no, with exceptions of one. And then they killed his father to get him away from me. Handlers are somebody who keeps you down. They keep you controlled. They keep you at where you're supposed to be. They make sure that you do not thrive, that you do not find out their truths. They usually are abusive, almost always. They're usually always narcissists. They control your goings and comings. They're your controllers. And they take you and put you in the places that you need to be for your missions.
All right. The next question is, were you put in a breeding program?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, the breeding program is a hybrid program. But the breeding program I was also used in the underground bases. My genetics, my eggs were used in that breeding program. And I can't say this is for sure, but when I met, the first time I was at a conference, I met super soldiers, and they seemed like my kids. So for some reason or other, some of them just really felt familiar to me. So I do believe some of my genetics are used in the super soldier program, and my genetics were possibly used in the, I don't know if they're going to have a cloning army. I don't know, but I do know they have something going on that they're doing and taking genetics, and they have their own hybrid program.
Why do they kidnap kids if they already are cloning people and they can make kids in a lab?
They don't have the same internal organs. They don't have the soul. Clones don't have a soul. So what the draconians like in the Loosh is that soul, that purity, essence. And they take these kinds of things out of children that would make them a human high, and it make a human not age, and make a reptilian also kind of a drug for them as well, of course.
Yeah, so you're saying that, snatching a kid, that kid has got all of the natural qualities they're looking for versus a lab-made kid. I mean, look how much of an investment they'd have to make a lab-made kid when they can just snatch one off the streets.
Exactly.
And the lab-made kid is not going to have that real-world experience and those attributes that they're looking for. All right, so Anne-Marie wants to know, the soul. What was the best piece of advice you have received in your life?
Well, that one I'm going to have to think about here. Uh, ah, this truth will set you free. I 100% believe that if you, that's why I became a hypnotherapist. That's why I had 18 regressions. I needed to know the truth because I wasn't free without the truth. I needed to know the truth. And once you know the truth, you can clear it, you can release it, you can cut the cords, you can cancel the contracts, which I work with people to do that in the hypnosis sessions, and it will set you free.
Right, next question. Were you controlled by archons?
I have been attacked by archons. In a way, I guess you could say control. There was a time when archons came into my room. I was, I don't know, very young. I don't know, probably 16, 17, 18, something like that. I saw them, and they started pulling me up, and they pulled me through the ceiling, and they looked to me like what you'd call demons. And so they were started to pull me through the ceiling, and I said, by the blood of Jesus, you must release me. And they dropped me. So because I was a minister's daughter, even though he was an MK Ultra, he was a minister. And in that church that I went to, a lot of that MK Ultra stuff was going on there too. But
are you saying the human race are slaves to the aliens?
Only if they allow themselves to be. I believe that we are so much more powerful than them spiritually. We have the higher, we are sovereign beings. We have the God source spark in us. They do not. So all they can use is fear, hate, anger. When you can transmute fear, hate, and anger into love energy, into energy even for your enemies, they are no longer as powerful. To this day, I still have occasionally them come in my astral to try, but I know how to stop it. And people can stop it. I teach people how to stop it. So you can stop this. We are not powerless. I guess that's about covers it.
So, with all this amazing power the reptilians and the military have, why haven't they managed to take us over completely by now?
I'm not sure they can live topside. I don't think they can. Because I only see them come in orbs of energies, or energy forms, or I see that we don't see them walking among us unless they're hybrids. So I don't believe that they can take us over. Plus, we have the Galactic Federation that is out there. They are assisting us. They are actually, I do believe, working with parts of our government. I will also say there's different groups like the tall whites, the Nordics, the feline races, other races that are very Arcturians. They're extremely powerful, all within their own abilities, since technology and things like that. So we have the good guys on our side, and this planet is what I consider, and I think it is a planet that was a seeding planet, a planet that is supposed to be here all of our animals and our insects and all the different things. It's an organic living library. We are part of that, and the genetics and the testing and all of that has been going on since the beginning of time. So why did they not ever take over us? I don't believe they can live in ours. However, could they be trying to change our atmosphere? That's possible with all of the chemtrails and all of the weather modifications. I don't know.
Did you meet tall whites?
Not the tall whites that are out at Creech Air Force Base. I did not meet them. I met a tall white with no hair. The tall whites that are out at Creech are more human looking.
Were aliens around since Jesus' time?
Okay, well, I'll just share my belief, just my belief. I believe that many of our masters that have come to our planet, including Jesus, had come from the galactic, through God, through the God source, through the energy, to help us understand that we can do this. Bible says, greater things you will do than I have done. He did miraculous things, and what we would call nowadays a lot of psychic things.
All right. So, next question. Were you able to see these beings' true form because they thought it was buried in an altar and integration reminded you?
It depends on which one he's talking about. Buried in, okay, you were able to see these true form BC through buried in an altar. Well, an altar is a completely different thing than a clone or shape-shifting. So an altar takes over the psyche and splits the psyche so that they can compartmentalize you, so you have many, many different altars, okay? Whereas the clone or a shapeshifter, that would be part of maybe genetics that they've done and changed that. That reptilian has taken over that body and is shape-shifting.
Did they use electric shock on you when making your altars?
A lot. A band around the head quite a few times, especially when I was younger and even into my adult life. Yeah, and also the soldiers would use prods, the electric prods on us.
Do you know anything about Guantanamo Bay and the cloning center?
No.
How can humans combat this?
Again, realize who you really are. Realize that you're part of the God source, that you're part of the most powerful energy that is there. And you're not alone, so you got to ask for help.
So, Area 51, did that come into your life?
Oh, yeah, Area 51 is where they were taking me while I was here in Vegas.
And can you remember what happened at Area 51?
Oh, that was the ones with the reptilians, where the reptilians, where it was their level, and that I told that whole experience about the reptilians.
You've got a few viewers are asking for the name of your book.
Oh, it's called You Can Handle the Truth. I'm sorry.
And Misha's website link is in the description box. I'll also put it in the live chat again right now before I go to the next question.
I also have another book. This is the Galactic Planet of Origin book that my Galactics wanted me to put together because they wanted people to realize that they're not just three things: grays, humans, and reptilians, that there's many, many other races.
Nathan wants to know if you've had memories inserted under hypnosis.
No. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that because that's one of the things they do. 100%. That first abduction when I was gone for 7.5 months from the college, that definitely was what they were doing. They were putting the false memories in. So every time I try to remember the truth, the false memory would come through. But when you get into the deep hypnosis theta state, you can find your real answers.
Is MK Ultra happened in Norway and Sweden?
I do not know. I've never lived there. I do know that I had people come to my support group from Norway and Sweden because I have my support groups. They've showed up at.
And wherever there is a government and mainstream media, you know that the population is getting manipulated, whether it's through MK Ultra or some other means. They've probably got some kind of parallel programs in Norway and Sweden, I would imagine. So is this why they are altering our terrain and contaminating our atmosphere?
Part of it, I believe, yes.
What do they think about the wars and the children that are suffering?
Well, my opinion is, and I've heard it from other people too, I've heard it from soldiers, that they felt that they were really getting off on the loose. So suffering, wars, disasters, I do believe that's why a lot of the disasters are happening, because they receive all that powerful loosh from the people in such dire, pain and agony and things like that.
The things that horrify us that they get off on.
Yeah.
So you've had several people ask for your thoughts on the work of David Icke, who we had on the channel last week, because he's talked about many of the things you've talked about, Misha. And have you reviewed his work or collaborated with him?
I've never collaborated with him. I would have been happy to do that. In fact, I did meet him. He, of course, would never remember, but he was at a small conference, and I don't even remember the state. Could have been California. And I met him and Arizona Wild Air and some of the others. And he had us come to dinner afterwards, and we were talking about all of our experiences. So I did meet him then. I do believe that he is a wonderful whistleblower about the reptilians and the draconians.
Yeah, we took him to a pub, and this was during the pandemic, and we had to sneak him in the back through the beer garden because he wouldn't wear a mask.
Oh, that would be him. Yeah.
Do you think Stanley Kubrick was murdered?
Yes, I do believe it was because of Eyes Wide Shut, because he was. There's some uncut versions out there that were the original that didn't make it to the final cut.
Why don't aliens use their technology to give us medicine and cures for diseases?
Okay, that's non-interference. I do believe non-interference is the biggest reason. Not to mention, the dark agendas have stopped it in everything. They've taken out doctors, they've taken out people who've developed these things. There's a lot I could say about that one, but definitely I do believe that we're being stopped, by the dark agenda.
Is Trump being influenced by aliens and such?
I don't know. I don't know. I hope he's bit by the Galactics. I wouldn't be a bit surprised because, he's escaped a lot of attempts on his life.
What is the fate of alters insofar as their occupancy and agency within one's mind-body consciousness? Are they ultimately banished, or are they afforded any right or claim to exist?
Ah, that's an interesting question.
Isn't it?
Yes, I do like that. Okay, so when I'm just going to go on when I'm working with people in hypnosis, when we're working on getting altars out, it's first, it is a communication that starts with the altar. And I see if the altar, and of course, the altar is the person talking through. Okay. So I see the altar, I see where they're coming from, I see their emotion. I always ask them when they were born. Most of the time, they're born as children of that person. They were born in as an altar when that person was a child, of course. And so they get to a point where they want help so badly. They do want to help so badly. To me, the altars that want to be autonomous have got some secret agenda. If all the altars ultimately always want to integrate and become all of you. Now, interestingly enough, and in my case, that was the case, I was a total introvert my entire life. So when my altars were integrated, that really, really introverted Miesha left. She was kind of, shall we say, all of the altars came together to make a stronger front. So because you've got to have the strongest front to fight what they do. I hope that made sense.
Yeah.
Did it? Okay.
I think you have answered all of the questions, Misha. Is there anything you would like to say in conclusion to the viewers?
Yeah, I would like to tell them about my support groups. So my biggest mission is to help people find out about their experiences. So, of course, hypnosis is a very big mission for me as well. But my biggest mission is to spread out throughout the entire world support groups. Like I said, I've been doing it for 12 years. I have 3 groups a week. And if I could just kind of briefly go over some of the groups. So I have a group that is for hybrids. I have a group, and I have Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. I try to have 6 early groups so that I can have European people join. So that start at 12 o'clock. And then I have 6 groups that start later for more of the American timelines. And so I have a targeted individual, and I do want to talk just a little bit about targeting. I have a couple of ET experiencer types, one reptilian and gray one. I have a next generation millennials and Gen Z group. I have that's taught by, or I should say, facilitated by a millennial. I have a vets for military vets and all the things that happen via the alphabet agencies and the aliens and such during wars, and that's Vietnam, and that's also Desert Storm and all the other ones. I have a twin flame soulmates, trauma bonding. I have my lab and deep underground military base. I have MK Ultra and secret space program. I have secret SRA, satanic ritual abuse, and all of the other things, including trafficking of all ages of people. And we go through that because trafficking has been going on for much longer than what we think. Yeah. Oh, and then I have a galactic group for people to come and be able to connect. I help them to activate their galactics, their planets of origin, so that they can be on a personal relationship with their galactics. So, wanting to go back to the target, a big part of when I do conferences and stuff is I talk to people about what they're doing. So, part of the different ways that they wanted to do to take over people is by the targeting. Targeting is voice to skull, psychotronic warfare, transhumanism, the AI and all of that. So it's all combined together so that people who are hybrids themselves, because a lot of people have come on this planet as a mission. I consider them a starseed hybrid. Their genetics might not be all human. Maybe some of them are starseeds and they are human, but they're here on a mission to wake up the consciousness. And that's the other thing that is helping. Once we can tip that scale on the consciousness, we can win and we can beat them 100%. So as the targeting goes, I have 2 targeting groups, one in Sundays and one on a Thursday, the last Thursday of the month. And it's so, and we talk about it throughout all the rest of the groups, because targeting is so.
Misha, this has been absolutely fascinating. There's so much. I'm going to have to watch it again just to absorb it. And I've learned so much speaking to you. And we salute your bravery. I'm putting the website link in the live chat again. If you're watching on replay, please support Misha's important work. So huge thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
If there's anyone you're working with who wants to come on and tell their stories as well, please let them know. We would love that. And I'm going to let you go. I know you're a busy person. I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to close the show. So you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Oh, can I say that I'm going to ask Olivia James is an amazing person. I've worked with her a lot in hypnosis, and she and I uncovered Project Oblivion, which was the project of this targeting. So
yeah,
so people might hear that name. That's where it came from during a hypnosis session I was doing with her. We found out about it. So yeah, I'll give you some names.
Yes,
Thank
please
you so much, John, for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on. You take care and have a great rest of your day. Cheers, Misha. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Phenomenal guest, folks. Absolutely fascinating. Mind-blowing story. Again, here's the link for the website. Check that out. It's in the live chat. I could see that was nothing but love and respect. And thank you for all your questions as well. Just to let you know what else we got coming up. So, Shane has got the Clark Frederick story booked in, and he unalived his abuser. So that's going to be harrowing. And I do believe that's coming on Monday at 10 p.m. UK. And then he's also got coming on the forensic breakdown with Dr. Garrison, inside Epstein's prison cell. So that will be coming earlier in the week as well. And if you missed Lauren's episode 4 of the Elite Network Exposed that was before this show this evening, check that one out. She had Ed Opperman on as a guest. He's really tuned in. And that one just went live just over an hour ago. So my mum and dad are down for the weekend. I'm going to go and chill out with them right now. So wherever you are in the world, thanks for tuning in, and hope to see some of you guys in the next one. And take care.